The next section we'll be talking about is building the relationship. In this section, we'll be talking about how we can help that individual feel comfortable. This is a really important part of helping someone who is suicidal, is by building this relationship. We have to recognize that this person is taking a risk talking to us, and we need to be considerate of that and open of how to help them. First thing we need to be able to do is be open with this individual. We need to be able to focus on ours and the individual's body language to help us through the situation. Next thing after that is we have got to listen. Listen. It is extremely important that we are listening to what they are saying. We need to be able to use that empathetic language, let this individual talk, and we need to recognize that what may not be important to us is likely very important to them. The first one we're going to talk about was being open. So when someone is being open to you about their thoughts and feelings, we need to be open back. When the ways we do this is we try to truly listen to the individual. Let that person talk without interruption. If you have an urge to talk, just wait. You don't need to do it. You just need to wait a little bit. We need to use active listening. Repeat back key phrases to them that you hear. I'll explain this a little bit more in the next couple slides. Encourage the person to be open with you and tell them that you want to help. This is a really important part, is we need to be able to show that person that we really do care about them. We really want to help them through this. We need to thank the person that they're being open to us, that they're able to talk to us about what's really going on inside of them, and that they probably are not doing this to many other people. We need to recognize that this person is struggling, and we need to be able to tell that person that we recognize that they are hurting, that this is not just some simple thing that they're going through, that they are legitimately hurting right now. When we talk about body language, it is really important to remember what our body language is saying to this person. We have to remember that our body language is usually making up about 85% of what we're saying to somebody. And you have to, when we think about that it really says a lot about how we're really communicating. We don't want to seem closed off. We want to seem open and willing to talk to this person. So a couple do's and don'ts that I want to point out. So first off, the do's. We need to look the person in the eyes. In more European culture and in American culture, this is something that's very respectful to do, is to look the person in the eyes. Not always as common in every culture, but it's generally what you're probably going to be doing, is looking that person in the eyes. We need to be able to mirror their body language, paying attention to what they're doing with their own body, and again, mirror it to an extent of what they're doing. Mirroring body language helps people feel more comfortable. A lot of times we don't even consciously recognize that this is what's happening. Another thing that we need to do when we have body language is keep our hands in the open. Let the other person see our hands. I know this kind of sounds kind of silly, but if somebody's very on edge, they might recognize where your hands are as either like a self-defense type of a thing, or just wanting to make sure they're taking care of themselves. So this is something that can go a long ways, but keeping your hands in the open, whether they be on your legs, on a table, whatever, just have them out in the open. Lean forward as though you are interested. You should be interested. So lean forward and listen to this person. Leaning forward when talking to somebody really shows that you are truly engaged with this person. Nod when they make clarifying information. If you're trying to get information out of them and you nod a little bit when they say something that makes sense, this is us saying yes without having to say yes. I know it's very simple to say, but it shows that we are listening to them and we are understanding what they're saying to us without having to interrupt them. Another thing is we just got to relax when we're talking to somebody. If we're really uptight, it's going to make them uptight. If we're calm and we're relaxed, they're going to feel more comfortable to tell you what's going on in their life. Couple don'ts. Don't cross your arms. When you cross your arms, it sends off a communication of, I'm not really listening to you, nor do I really care about what you're saying to me. I'm just closed off right now. So really focus on don't closing your arms. Try not to close your legs. Kind of does the same thing. It just shows try not to cross your legs. Sometimes when we cross our legs, it kind of does the same thing as crossing our arms. Obviously there's comfortable ways to we can cross our legs and things like that, but try to pay attention to it. If we can, just try to keep them straightforward, relaxed, but also, maintaining that we're not closing off to them. Again, don't put your hands in your pocket. We want to keep our hands out in the open. Putting our hands in our pocket shows that we don't really care about what you're saying. Don't touch the other person. Sometimes this is something that is kind of be considered silly, but sometimes we might, rub their back or tap them on the shoulder, or you grab their shoulder or some type of thing like that, where we think this is going to help them feel more comfortable. And sometimes it's better just to not do it, because it will likely make them feel less comfortable. Just try to avoid that of really touching them at all. And just try not to be rigid. Sometimes we're looking like a stiff board. We just look like it's just hard to talk to us. If we seem really anxious, generally the person we're talking to is going to feel anxious as well. The next part is listen. We have to listen to the person. This is probably the most important step of the relationship building. If we have to show that we truly care about what they are saying. And if we are focusing on getting our point across, we're probably doing the wrong thing. A couple of things that we can do to improve our listening is use the ratio of what I call the 80-20, which is you need to be listening 80% of the time and talking 20% of the time or less. This allows the person to be open to you and be able to talk about what's truly going on in their lives, and what they are really experiencing. As we've said before, if you have an urge to say something, just don't. Just wait, and you will be able to talk, but let them talk. Use active listening. So with active listening, what we're doing is we're repeating back individual things. Repeating back things to the individual to represent that we know we're hearing what they're saying. For example, if somebody is saying, I'm so sad, or I'm extremely sad, we repeat part of that back. Sounds like things are hard right now, and you've been pretty sad. It's showing that what we're doing is we're picking up small items of what they're saying, and we're repeating that back to them. Someone says, my grades are awful. I'm frustrated with my parents, and I broke up with my girlfriend. The way we would active listen through that would be, sounds like a lot of things are going wrong right now. You're not happy with your grades, your girlfriend, or your significant other, and your parents are really hard to deal with right now. That seems like it'd be really hard to deal with. Again, we're repeating back pieces of what they're saying. We're actively listening about what's going on, and to help them feel validated that we know what they're saying. We need to empathize with the individual. One thing that we can do is put ourselves in their shoes. If you were in the same situation that they're in, what would you be feeling right now? What would be some of your thoughts? How would you be feeling right now about all this? And how difficult would it probably be for you? Things to refrain from. Try to not talk so much. You are probably one of the few people that this person is talking to about this difficult situation. So just try not to talk too much. Let them talk. One thing that we do often, that I hear often, is we say to people, I know how you feel. Um, no, you don't. You probably don't know how they're feeling. And if we listen enough and ask them clarifying questions, we will probably know somewhat of how they're feeling. But we can't, if we say to them, I know how you're feeling, this is a very invalidating statement to the individual. One thing we want to refrain from is changing the subject. Sometimes we get really nervous and we just feel like, hey, maybe if I just change the subject, it'll get better. That's not going to do it. They're probably still going to be hurt or not be doing very well at the time. So don't change the subject. Let them decide where they want to take this. And then try not to minimize how they are feeling. You'll feel better in the morning. We don't know that. You need to be able to allow them to talk and try not to minimize what they are going through right now. We need to be able to use empathetic language. So some of the things we can use to increase some of this empathetic language is, again, try not to say, I know how you're feeling. Instead, you say something that sounds more like, that sounds really difficult. I can only imagine what you're going through. Because again, we don't know exactly what they're going through. But if we were in their shoes, it would probably be pretty difficult. We would probably be going through something, we would probably be struggling maybe just like they are. Use statements of hope. I'm here. I'll help you through this. When we use statements like this, it shows them that we're getting on the same page as them. We're getting on the same team. We're going to help. We're going to work through this together. It's not you get to have to deal with this. It's we get to deal with this. We're all going to help you through this. Something that we can do is we can normalize their feelings. We can recognize that, if you were in a situation like this, yeah, it'd be pretty frightening. Very frightening. I can understand why you're frightened right now. Or, one thing that we can say that normalizes feelings is, again, this happens to a lot of people. Many people have suicidal thoughts. And again, that's okay. And I'm glad that you're being able to talk to me about your suicidal feelings and suicidal thoughts. Because most people feel this way, but not a lot of people talk about it. Sometimes when we use descriptive emotions with empathetic language, it can be very effective. So if we actually pinpoint an actual emotion that they're feeling, sometimes I'll hear a lot of times people will say, oh, you seem really frustrated. And they'll use that word over and over and over again. But there's multiple words that can explain that. And when we use those words, people will feel empathy that they're actually being listened to. And they'll actually pinpoint maybe what they're really feeling. You sound like you're feeling pretty depressed. You sound like anxiety's been really difficult for you. You sound really scared. Being able to pinpoint emotions can help them feel like somebody's really being empathetic with them and truly listening to them. Next one here is letting them talk. The individual will feel comfortable to let you know how they feel. Now we just need to let them talk about it. So first off, use your listening skills as we mentioned before. Let them talk openly and allow them to speak without interruption. Again, we just have to let them talk. We don't want to interrupt them. If we do, we might have lost our chance of helping that person out. Another thing is we have to recognize what they're saying is very important to them. Sometimes it's hard for us to really wrap our head around why the thing that they're having struggles with is really important. But the thing is, if somebody that you're talking to is talking about something that they're struggling with, then it is important for you to hear it. Even if you don't feel like it's really all that important, it is very important for you to hear it and be able to respond effectively with that person. Don't judge this person. If this person is being open with you about what they're feeling, then allow them to be able to talk about that. If you start to judge that person, they're probably just going to stop talking to you about this because they don't want to feel judged anymore. And then again, thank them for feeling comfortable to talk to you. Know that this is a really difficult situation, that they don't have to talk to you, but they chose you, and that's important. And that they feel comfortable enough to talk to you. and just again thank them that they feel comfortable to do that. That ends this section. I hope this helps you understand how to listen a little bit better when talking to someone who is having a difficult time.